Welcome to the Tenant Experience Network. I'm your host, David Abrams. In this episode, we are connecting with Mollie Eisler, Vice President, Technology and Innovation at Almanac Realty Investors. In this episode, we learn how Mollie began her career journey with an educational foundation in hospitality, which allowed her to delve deeper into her interest in the intersection of people, technology, and place. Early days of working at IBM with big data, analytics, cloud computing, and AI exposed Mollie to the many ways that technology can help people do their jobs better. The experience served her well when she made the leap to real estate, overseeing investment in Proptech companies as a VP of Ventures before landing her current role at Almanac as VP of Tech and Innovation. Mollie sees two themes emerging that will define the future of commercial real estate. The first is data management, which she views as the most valuable resource. And the second is the creation of unique and memorable in-person experiences that can be shared with others. Mollie is seeing more building operators collaborating with their customers and creating more opportunities to engage with them to gather feedback that will ultimately inform future decisions. I appreciated hearing the example of Neuberger Berman's use of art tours to connect people to their buildings and help foster community. In Mollie's view, tenant engagement and communication platforms are on the rise because they are helping to meet the needs of hybrid work and improve digital connectivity. It was great to have Mollie on the program, and I look forward to the opportunity for future collaboration. We're excited to share this podcast with you, so be sure to subscribe to 10 so you never miss an episode of the Tenant Experience Network. And now I'd like to welcome Mollie to the show. I'm really glad you could be with us today.
Thanks, David, for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversation. So let's start with your journey to your current role position. How did you get started in the business?
Absolutely. So I've had kind of a winding journey, but everything makes sense when you put all the pieces together. We can start with my educational foundation, which is in hospitality, where I studied at Cornell University. I've always been really interested in kind of the intersection of people, technology, and place. So I first got my start at IBM, where I was an internal consultant to the business and understood how some of the rising technologies at the time, such as big data and analytics, cloud computing, AI, and more, could really help people do their jobs better. So that kind of helped illuminate the tech piece for me. I then was interested in bringing that into real estate, where I joined WAM Equity Partners, and I was their vice president of ventures and oversaw the venture department. So there, fourth generation owner, manager, developer based in New York City with assets across the city. And the owner is also an angel investor. So we evaluated early stage companies, particularly in the Proptech space, to invest in for his portfolio. And then we would implement those tech within the portfolio. So that's how I kind of got my launching pad into the Proptech space, taking what I learned from hospitality and from tech at IBM and infusing that with real estate. After that, I am in my current position now here at Almanac, where I started in September of last year. I am our Vice President of Tech and Innovation. I work both internally with the Almanac teams and then also with our portfolio of real estate partners across the country. They are in all different sectors, and we invest in the entity level. So we're working directly with these companies to help transform operations, and I provide a value add internal consultancy guidance to them about prop tech to implement and how they can evaluate various tech for implementation within their portfolios.
Amazing. Sounds like a dream job. I think you've got your hands full.
Yes, it's been great so far.
Amazing. So why do you think you were so uniquely suited to this position? What has helped you to become successful?
Sure. So I think really just tangible experience in all the roles I've joined. I have just kind of jumped in headfirst and took the time to get real, actual experience. that has really helped serve as a foundation. So I would say it's that tangible experience. And then also it's the relationship management along the way. So being able to foster strong relationships with industry professionals, with mentors, and with others has really helped move the needle. I think collaboration is key here in this industry, and building up, a Rolodex of contacts and people that you can reach out to has certainly been successful. So I'd say it's a combination of those two.
Yeah, amazing. Going back to your earlier comment, I love your point about people, hospitality, and technology, and I think
Hmm.
that's going to be a theme that I think I suspect will be woven throughout our conversation, because that's truly what
Sure.
we're all about. What I think the world is all about, and I think your perspective and your experience is going to be really valuable to our listeners. Uh,
Wonderful.
you know, I think you can agree with me that commercial real estate has just gone through one of the most turbulent periods of time ever, certainly that you and I can remember. It remains the largest asset class in the world. However, it is still continuing to rebound from a period of historically low levels of occupancy. It's trying to meet the emerging needs of people as it moves forward, but it's also faced with the disruption of technology
Hmm.
and the impact that's having on how it delivers space and service. Very exciting times, I'm sure, for both you and I. Our team at Hilo really believes that buildings are now part of a much larger workplace ecosystem.
Hmm.
And, not just, well, the physical workspace is probably core. It only is part of, where people will choose to work. And we've got to be able to connect with them and deliver service no matter where they are, their dining room table, their a co-working space, a local cafe. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing right now across your portfolio in terms of how the industry is responding to these emerging needs of our customers?
Great question. So, definitely agree with you. There's a huge shift that's going on. I know people in the industry are calling this a hinge period. And
Hmm.
I really believe that the future of commercial real estate is prop tech. So some things that I'm seeing, I would say, focusing on two areas. One is data management. So data is now the world's most valuable resource and can certainly be a competitive advantage. So that's something that I'm working on with our portfolio as a data strategy and management solution, so that we can use this data to be able to empower decision making and also involve the people in the process, getting feedback, opening this kind of feedback loop. So getting data from disparate sources, connecting them, and then figuring out how we can use that data. And then I'd say the other point is really about this sense of experience and creating in-person experiences. From my background in hospitality, we learned about surprising and delighting customers by providing these unique and memorable experiences, and I think that those experiences have to be shared with others, and that is something that can happen in the office, in person, in a physical place, but then also making sure that you have a data back strategy to get you the right people in the room and get the right content and get the right experience together is really how we move the needle.
Makes total sense. What are your thoughts on how building owners and operators could be or should be collaborating more closely with the occupier, their tenant, in terms of helping to solve for today's challenges, and then really focused on helping to attract and retain the best talent. If we believe that buildings can bring people together and there's benefit and value to help building great companies, what's the intersection between the building operator's role and the occupant's role? Is there an opportunity for more collaboration?
Absolutely. I think there is certainly an opportunity for more collaboration. We are just kind of starting to see an open communication channel between the operator and the tenants themselves. Often it was just, pay for your lease and you have the space, and there's not really any kind of communication there. But I think that the relationship can be much closer. I think that by creating this sense of place and involving tenants in decision making, whether it's involving them in a pilot and creating this ongoing feedback loop, having internal champions at different levels of the organization provide feedback on a tech or a pilot, and then really embracing that feedback loop ensures that the tenants feel heard and seen and feel like they are also contributing to their experience. So I think this is just starting to open up this communication channel, and it's something that can certainly be further explored to be able to attract and retain top talent.
Yeah. In the hotel industry, every time a client checks out, they're normally asked, "How was your stay?"
Hmm.
And that could be as short as one
Yeah.
night or several nights. But in commercial real estate, we've not necessarily been trained historically to ask our tenants, how was your day today in the building?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those conversations often and historically took place every 5 years or 10 years at least renewal. And I think that's changing now. And I think that's what's really exciting. Um,
Hmm. Definitely exciting and really goes back to my point about capturing data. So making sure that you do have this feedback, that you have it documented, you have it on a regular cadence, and then you can use that, to inform your decision making moving forward.
Right. So definitely, there's a requirement for far more engagement,
Hmm.
at the earliest stage. I just recorded an episode with Michael Pritztula from Accenture, and we talked about, the need for building operators to actually engage their tenants, not, after it's built and delivered, but actually even in the development and design phase, that there's an
Hmm.
opportunity for more collaboration and get more and more input to help ultimately deliver a better end product.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think a lot about buildings. We've always thought that buildings were not just silos, not just sort of four walls and separate, but they were very much a part of neighborhoods and cities. And so we believe there's an opportunity for building operators to really think, beyond their four walls. Just curious what your thoughts are around the notion of workplaces playing a role in creating larger and more connected communities.
Absolutely. So I do think that workplaces have a huge opportunity here, especially with, the rise of remote working from the pandemic and this new hybrid model. I think there's a lot that we can do in terms of workplace engagement and getting people back into the office and collaborating, but then also being able to be flexible and meet people where they are. So if not everybody can be in the office, how can we create this connected and shared experience? Here at our offices, we're part of Neuberger Berman,
Mhm.
and there are several, I would say, in person and online engagement opportunities that they provide. So, for example, the founder of Neuberger Berman originally started as an artist, and art is very important to our organization. You'll see art on the walls on every floor. So they do monthly art tours where you can actually go through the building and learn about the history of the art. So I think something like that connects people to the story and to the history, but then also to the physical space. So you can tour the building and see where the art is. Things like that are, super unique experiences that people will want to come into the office and enjoy. Also, things around shared holidays or meetups, affinity groups, or on different hot topics are great opportunities where you can bring people together in a meeting room and then also have a hybrid model and allow people to zoom in. So
Right.
having these kind of adjacent conversations that complement the history or the story of the company and help to shape the future, I think can really engage people. It's just all about figuring out how the companies can create access to everybody, whether that's digitally or in person.
Yeah, it's certainly, we have to recognize that it's not going to be a straight line
Yeah.
in terms of creating that connection. And now we do have to recognize that we will often be living in two worlds.
Hmm.
And how do you bridge the two? So and I think that's going to be a bit of a work in progress. I know
Yeah.
for us, we hosted our first workplace engagement workshop with one of our client partners, and we tried to bridge that chasm between in person and those across the country on Zoom. And it had a few hiccups.
Hmm.
But it's something that obviously now we're going to be continuing to work on, and I think
Sure.
it'll just get better and better. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Great.
This episode of 10 is proudly brought to you by Hilo. Hilo is a rapid deployment workplace engagement platform for the hybrid world that enables building operators to connect to their tenants, whether they are at work, at home, or anywhere in between. We are in the midst of a seismic shift in the evolution of the workplace. Now more than ever, it's clear that the most important asset of a building is the people. Commercial real estate leaders recognize that tenants and employees want new kinds of spaces, services, and amenities to support having the flexibility to work from anywhere. Workplace engagement solutions that connect hybrid working people to buildings no matter where they are have become a major differentiator as buildings compete to retain current tenants and attract new ones. Hilo empowers building operators to meet this challenge. To learn more about Hilo and schedule a demo, visit hiloapp.com.
And now I'd like to welcome back to the show Mollie Eisler, Vice President, Technology and Innovation at Almanac Realty Investors. Once again, I'm so glad you could be with us today.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, and we've talked about, technology is playing a significant role in shaping how building operators deliver great customer experience to their tenants. And workplace engagement now is uppermost in everyone's mind. And I think it presents many opportunities to do things differently. So focusing on meeting those evolving needs of people and buildings, I'm just curious what other technologies you are seeing gaining traction in helping to contribute to a better experience.
Absolutely. So, I mean, to your point at what you're building at Hilo, certainly tenant engagement and communication platforms are on the rise. It's, something that is a huge need for this hybrid model of working. So, off the bat, I would say there. I would also say, you know, being able to be digitally connected and have the best digital experience with your Wi-Fi is a huge need. So companies like Wired Score, who are evaluating and providing certifications on digital connectivity of buildings based on the building infrastructure. So tenants and employees can know that their building is the best connected. I think that's something that's huge, and huge demand, as especially people are traveling and working remotely on the go. Is just this idea of digital connectivity and being able to plug in from wherever you are. Also, I think smart tech around ESG. So,
Mhm.
companies like Enertiv are doing some really cool things with putting sensors and being able to capture occupancy data. So, understanding who's in the building and when, being able to turn on heat or turn off air to have cost savings, but also to provide the most comfortable experience for the tenants. So, I remember back in other offices being absolutely freezing and calling to get them to change the
Right.
heat, or being absolutely too hot and having them turn on the air. So now having these sensors being able to automatically detect in real time what the temperature should be to provide a pleasant experience for the people who are there and also provide cost savings, I think is really cool.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. And certainly we're seeing a lot of that as well. And then I
Hmm.
think there's the opportunity is to how do we connect, tenant experience to sensors, to
Hmm.
some of the other, to energy consumption and management. And I think that's, what we're excited about as we continue to move forward is that, the needle of what we need to be able to do continuously is moving forward.
Hmm.
It's not, build it and we're done. It is certainly an evolving process. And every day, every month, every year, it seems to bring up new opportunities, new challenges. So it's an exciting opportunity for both of us.
Definitely.
Our closing speed round is an opportunity to get to know you, Mollie, a little bit better.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, what do you enjoy doing when you're not at work?
I really enjoy live music. So I am a bit of a concert junkie. I love going to shows. I love the experience of, being in person with others and sharing this really unique experience of hearing music live and seeing talent, right before your eyes and being able to have this shared experience together. So love going to see live music.
I'm with you on that. What is your favorite drink of choice? Hot, cold, alcoholic?
Yeah. Yeah. This might be a bit of a boring answer, but I would say I think water is the nectar of the gods. I love
Uh,
water. Just a nice ice cold, refreshing New York City tap water.
not even filtered, right out of the top. You're a true New Yorker. What's your favorite movie or current TV series that you're watching?
So I just finished watching White Lotus.
Okay.
Really great show. Season 2 was pretty fun and entertaining. So I hope they renew that.
Okay. Uh, Name one way in which technology has improved how you live or work.
Hmm. There's so many ways. One, I'll say one example is a smart light bulb. So I have these equipped in my apartment, and I'm able to adjust using my phone how bright they are, how warm they are. So when there's different parts of the day and I'm working remotely, I can adjust the light so that everything looks good on camera. And then also at night, there are cool programs where I can have kind of color changing, fading
Right.
colors and things like that to create a unique ambiance and experience. So I would say the smart light bulbs and being able to control them from an app on my phone has definitely improved my environment when I'm at home, whether I'm working or relaxing.
Yeah, very cool. Smart home technology is really evolving. What is your personal choice for days spent in person with your colleagues and team versus working from anywhere?
Sure. So, if it's possible, I would choose both. I
Okay.
think, the future is a hybrid model. I'm a very social person, grounded in hospitality. So I do love coming into the office and just, seeing people, being able to have impromptu meetings and lunch and just, hop over to someone's desk and ask a question. But then I also do love travel and I love the flexibility of, you know, being able to work remotely 1 or 2 days a week and kind of
Mhm.
tack on a long weekend and adjust travel schedules and be able to spend one more day in the place that I've traveled through remote work. So I would choose both.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we have the best of both worlds, and I think that
100%.
yeah, and I think that rather than mandating, one or the other, I think the key word is flexibility and allow people to work with their teams and work with their companies in a way that makes sense. And I think that's an exciting um, outcome of what we've all lived through over the
Absolutely.
last number of years. And I hope the world continues to embrace that and becomes less polarizing and more accepting.
Yeah, me as well.
Uh, yeah, Molly, thanks so much for coming on the program today. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm looking forward to
Likewise.
continued discussion around technology, around people, and around hospitality. And I think commercial real estate just creates an amazing little ecosystem to sort of deploy thinking around all three of those subjects. So, congratulations on your success, and I look forward to continued conversation.
Thank you. I do as well. And thanks so much again for having me. It was a pleasure and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Excellent. Take care now.
Okay. Thanks, David. Bye bye.
Bye. I want to thank Mollie Eisler for joining me on this episode of Tenant and for contributing to the global conversation around buildings being part of a robust ecosystem, helping to build great companies, and that they are vital in the effort to cultivate and support great people and teams. The future of the workplace will likely take many forms, and we will continue to explore what that looks like together. Subscribe to Tenant for more conversations with leading CRE industry professionals and experts who all have something to say about tenant experience and the future of the workplace. We love hearing from you, so if you enjoyed this episode of 10, please share, add your rating, and review us through your preferred podcast provider. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on a future episode, please reach out to me directly at david@hiloapp.com. And until our next episode, I wish you all continued success in building community where you work and live. Thank you.